you do that? Calling the meeting to order for the Woodbury County Zoning Commission, Monday, August 24th, 2020 at 6 p.m. sharp. Roll call, please, of who is in attendance.
Barb Parker.
And you handle that? Okay.
Barb Parker's here.
All right, Tom Bride.
Here.
And Chris Zelmerzant is here.
Here. Okay. How about staff?
Dan and Dave are here.
Okay. Do we have any public?
None on the call and none in the office.
Okay. So that'll take us to the third item on the agenda, public comments on matters not on the agenda. Seeing as we don't have any public, I'm assuming we can move on to the approval of the minutes. June 22nd, July 27th, and July 29th. Do you want to do that all concurrently or individually?
If there are no objections or any required revisions, we can do it as a slate of all three. That's fine.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or corrections for any of the minutes?
I do not have any comments or questions. Tom, do you have anything?
No, I do not have any comments or questions, and I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of all three dates, June 22nd, July 27th, and July 29th.
Okay, we have a motion. Can we get a second?
This is Barb. I will second that.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from June 22nd, July 27th, and July 29th, state aye by roll call, I'm assuming.
We can just go ahead and say aye, and if there are any objections, we'll ask for the name.
Okay. Okay.
Aye.
I need ayes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next item on the agenda is, are we electing a vice chair?
Yes, Bruce was the acting vice, and we should probably appoint a new one.
I thought Tom was.
Yeah, I thought we did that at the January meeting. Or when we met, Sean stuck me with it, I remember.
Nice guy.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter if you want to revote or whatever.
I'm not trying to kick you out the chair, Tom. I guess, I don't know. We have wrong notes or something then.
Yeah, because I thought it was Bruce on the thing. But...
Bruce is.
Yeah, I think Sean. Yeah, Sean nominated me and Bruce seconded it. I don't think Barb was at the meeting, but if Barb would like to do it.
No, actually,
hey, wait a minute.
And that's an administrative error. And Bruce, you're going to have to just retain that position if you would like to. I mean,
that's fine as long as Chris shows up at every meeting.
Okay, we're gonna.
Well, you guys do really good. So our apologies. I don't know how the hell that happened. I don't know how that happened. I apologize.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, we'll have to watch you on those now.
Good Lord, I am so sorry.
We can move on to the next item on the agenda.
Yes.
The zoning text amendment draft proposal. Do you want to read that into the record?
Sure. I mean, basically what we've done here is we've updated the sections of the ordinance 1.03.2, 2.01.1, 2.01.4, and 5 of the zoning ordinance. And the beginning section of our zoning ordinance includes language about the farm exemption. And as you know, with the law that was passed this summer, we needed to update the language in our ordinance to comport with the state law. And it's pretty basic as far as the revisions that we've made. We did make these changes to the Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustment, and we've sent it to the county attorney's office for review. And you may or may not know that the assistant county attorney that's appointed to oversee our zoning commission and board of adjustment has recently had a loss in the family, and then also just within the last week had his first child. So we haven't had any feedback from the county attorney's office. We didn't know that Joshua had his baby when we notified you guys for the meeting. I was, I was anticipating that we would have had his feedback and his stamp of approval, but unfortunately we don't. So if you guys have any comments or questions about any of the changes that are in there, please let us know. But I guess I would probably recommend that we don't schedule any public hearings to actually proceed with the formal revisions until we get the county attorney's office to look at it.
Okay, this is Chris. I mean, that would be my suggestion too. I don't want to act on this until we get the county attorney's blessing per se.
Yes.
So do you need a motion to table this, or does somebody else have any questions on this that they'd like to discuss before we take any action?
This is Tom, and I guess the only thing I would comment on, and I'm assuming it's correct, the language that is highlighted is being changed, or the stuff that's being deleted. It's basically in direct context with the House File 2512 is what the rewording is coming from, I would assume.
Yes. And what is it was in your packet, which was House File 2512. And then Dan, do you remember the section of the code for county zoning? Is it
335?
335? And so what we did is basically we went to the state code, the code section for county zoning. The House File 2512 is an amendment to that section of the code. And so we took the new amendments with the language that they kept, and then we just modified it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And like Chris said, probably need to hold off until it's been reviewed by the attorney to verify that it is accurate. But since it is state law, it's what we have to follow anyhow, and there's no sense in not at some point implementing those regulations.
I'm curious, this is Chris. Under the administration, section 2.01, administrative officials and bodies in the red, item number 1, page 5 or 9, there's 2 numbers on it. It goes from planning and zoning department, and it's being changed to community and economic development department. Is that code change, or is that?
No, actually, so that first, when we get into the administrative officials and bodies, that change is to reflect our actual name of the county department, since they consolidated them.
Okay.
And same thing with the director position. We checked, and there were 70 some instances in the zoning ordinance where it was, called the zoning director, and instead of making all of those changes, we were just going to leave it in there and note that it's called the zoning director throughout this ordinance.
Okay.
And really, that's kind of basic. We're just basically doing some housekeeping items. I really feel like these are just pretty basic revisions that have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And which is I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dan, one thing I guess I was going to point out too is on page 12, paragraph 4, under section B, paragraph 4, the wording in there, including failure to attend 6 or more regular meetings in any 12-month period. First off, the Board of Adjustment might not even meet that many times sometimes in a year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And I assume that's just up to, I mean, the way that's worded, I assume the state or whoever did that assumed that a 12-month period would require 12 meetings, but if they only require 3 meetings, it's not a grounds for removal. And I don't know if anybody could try to use that at some point and say something, but I don't know if that's a clarification that the county attorney would look at too.
We can make sure that they check on that. And that part of, I believe that was not in the language of the Board of Adjustment, but it was in for the Zoning Commission.
Well, no, it's not in the zoning commission's deal for the meetings. It's in the Board of Adjustments.
No, it says it in the Zoning Commission on page 10 under section 4. And so we included that to reflect basically the same sort of membership requirements for both board and commission.
Right, but you say page 10, paragraph 4?
Yeah.
The
That,
appointment and membership, paragraph 4.
yeah, but that's in that paragraph. But then if you go on to page 12, and that would be section B4, and it's in the Board of Adjustments highlighted.
Yeah, we're adding it to the Board of Adjustment.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at. If that's just language you're creating, even Board of Adjustment or, well, even zoning, if there was a reason we only had 5 meetings, you know, that's all I was getting at.
Yeah, we can add
That's
some
not-
sort of qualifier, but I think it would be pretty understood that we're not going to boot you if we didn't have that many meetings. But we could add some language to qualify that if you like.
Yeah, and I know where you're going. I mean, you don't want to have 12 meetings and somebody only showing up 6 times. But if you only have 8 meetings and somebody shows up 6 times, they're probably doing pretty good. But
We wouldn't kick them off if they showed up to all 5 meetings. And we only had 5.
no, and that's what I was getting at. I wasn't saying that staff may, but if anybody wants to argue that, maybe they want to leave an avenue in there to say, oh no, wait a minute, that's only depending on meetings held or something like that. Because I know people have tried to remove members from, I think it was Board of Adjustment years ago, and it was for that reason, not attending enough meetings.
Okay.
And it was because they were disappointed with the vote that they received on their variance requirement.
Gotcha. Now we'll add
That's
some
all I was getting at.
qualifying language.
Okay, I'm curious on why strike the year the code was established.
That's something I think it's a stylistic thing that I noticed Joshua does. So we just kind of wrote it anticipating how he's going to review it and provide comment.
Yeah, in fact, he's recommended pulling the year off of the notices and things and just strictly referring to the code.
Yeah, he's kind of prompted us on
Okay.
that.
Okay, I'm just curious, what was the rationale behind that?
Lawyer says to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's it.
You don't always do what the lawyer says. Okay, I'm just curious. And then on item D, looks like for Board of Adjustment, both 4 and 5, you're striking review. You think that's redundant, or to hear review and decide on request? Is that why review is being struck?
I think it has. I really don't remember that one, but I think it's got something to do with what was in the code, if I don't remember correctly.
you're just trying to follow the wording that's in the code? More
Just trying
than
to
what we
follow the
already
wording
have?
in the code, and there were some other stuff that were in powers and duties for, maybe it was both zoning commission and board of adjustment that, were things that you guys haven't been doing or have never done, and so, and it's not outlined in code, and so I don't know how it got in there before, but yeah, I guess we're just trying to make it more reflective of what you guys actually do and what the code states you
Okay.
can.
Right. Being as we're following code, and I hate to bring this up because it seems discriminatory, gender equity and membership, is that still a hot topic? Is that part of code? Or is that something we don't want to put in the language?
It wasn't in that code section 335, but
Okay.
that's a good point. I think it is in another section of the code.
If I'm not
Oh,
mistaken,
ask.
that was quite an issue a few years ago. Far be it
I
from me
think
to
there
point it
may-
out.
Chris, there may be something in there regarding that, because I know when I was going to get on the board, or right after I did, the next member they were looking for, they needed, if at all possible, to be female to equalize the
Right.
board. But and it's something, I think it was back when John was there, but I don't know if there was language regarding that, or it was came down from the supervisors, but there was a direction to equalize the board a little bit.
You know what? If
Yeah,
I
that makes
remember, I remember John Palello telling me a story about how they got that up, and if I remember correctly, it was a recommendation of that's how the state boards and commissions are they look at gender, political affiliation, and gender and political affiliation, I believe. And I think that's what John was told when he created those, I think that's how it got there. But I am 99% positive that it's not in the code section for county zoning. And so, but we'll ask, we'll ask.
Okay. I mean, I just, if we're going to do some corrections here, we might as well keep up with what the code is, if that's actually what the code is. And then term limits. Term limits has always been one of those, you're either for it or you're not. Is that code, or is that a John Palello policy?
I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
Term limits? Is that code, or is that
The
John
term
Palello's
limits,
policy?
term limits are not in code. So I think that was just an internal previous administrator's decision or recommendation.
Okay. That's how I recall, anyway. What I'm recalling. I always question that too. But other than that, I don't have any other questions concerning the language.
I mean, do you guys
I
have
don't wanna-
a feeling towards term limits or not?
I guess one thing I would like to point out, and it's regarding term along with the gender equity. I think that the first, gender equity should be something that should be sought after. But if there's no applicants on one side or the other, or if the qualifications are drastically different, there has to be a little bit of leadway. You shouldn't just pick somebody to pick somebody because it's a requirement. If they fit the qualifications, then great. And right now with our board, even when all 5 were on, we did have that diversity, which worked well. But I don't know that you can flat out say we have to have 3 and 2 or 2 and 3 if you can never find somebody willing to do it.
Yeah, that's a good
qualified,
point.
yeah, well, how do you qualify too? I mean, somebody could be new and not know much about it, but still be a good candidate, but we did talk about that at the same time. I think there's a caveat that if you cannot find someone or there's no one interested to cause that gender equity or political affiliation, then you can go ahead and appoint someone else, another candidate. So it's not tying your hands, if that's my understanding.
Okay. Well, those are all really good points. I'm glad you guys brought that up. So, and we weren't, I guess Dan and I talked about this, and we didn't want to, or we didn't think recommending term limits, or I guess we're kind of interested in what the commission thought about that, or maybe what the supervisors will think about that. But because it's not easy to get people to do this work, I would kind of almost maybe even shy away from the thought of term limits. But I don't know, I guess it's not our decision, but I like your guys' thoughts and on the gender balance, and we'll make sure that that's looked at, as well as the political affiliations or any other requirements by code for governmental commissions or boards. And so we'll double check on that.
Okay. And my only comment, this is Chris again, on term limits, is that I can see where it would be beneficial to have fresh blood, so to speak. But I've
Sure.
also found that in a lot of instances, especially that we see over and over again, historical knowledge of occurrences with zoning has been, I think, extremely beneficial.
Yeah, I'd
Those of
agree.
us
And
that have
because
been for a long time.
one thing I guess I would say where maybe the term limits aren't quite as crucial here is the fact that since the supervisors do appoint the new position, even at the end of a term, you're not automatically renewed. They have the ability to look at the fact of how has this person performed. And if they've done a good job and they're very happy and confident in their ability, maybe they will look to retain them. But if they're performing poorly or stepping outside their bounds, the supervisors can then at that point also remove them from that position.
Right.
So that's a good thing, I guess, as far as being appointed as a member.
Yeah.
Allowing flexibility. Yeah. I
Well,
agree with allowing flexibility.
we will look into those requirements for membership by the code, and then we'll also be sure to ask, what happens in that situation where you cannot be balanced or by gender or whatever. And so we'll make sure that we know that going forward.
Okay.
And this is kind of a good segue into the last item, which was the rules of procedure. While we were looking at the language for membership, we noticed that it said that you folks had rules of procedure, and we couldn't find any. And so, it's pretty much we just codified I feel like what you guys do already. And we actually looked for rules of procedure from existing zoning commissions and boards of adjustment. And coincidentally, the Sioux City Zoning Commission, their legal counsel used to be a law clerk on our floor just about 2 years ago, Stephen Polstolka. He's now assistant city attorney for Sioux City. Anyways, I called Stephen for some help, and I wanted to ask him for a copy of their rules of procedure. And coincidentally, he told me that they were in the same situation where they had it in the language that it said that they had it, but they actually never really did have those documents. So they created some, and basically we took existing rules from other counties that we found through the Iowa State Association of Counties, and then working with the city of Sioux City's legal office as well, we came up with those. One of the things that we had talked about was like in the event if the chair and vice chair are not there, the city attorney said that the secretary should chair the meeting. Dan thought the most senior commissioner should chair the meeting. And so those are some of the things that we kind of wanted to flush out and see what you folks thought. And do you guys have any feedback or any comments in general about what we've written so far? Because it's just really a draft.
I guess I don't really have any comments on it, other than it seems like our procedure is the language or introduction that I do. It's not published before every meeting, or the Board of Adjustment chair. So you're looking to put something in writing, in policy?
It's basically, it was, yeah, there's, in your packet, there was the rules of procedure for the County Planning and Zoning Commission. Basically, it outlines the officers, the selection, tenure, duties, vacancy. It pretty much is supposed to guide the staff and the commission on what to do and when to do it.
Okay.
And like I said, I didn't feel like it was anything out of the ordinary in terms of what we already do, which is follow pretty much Robert's Rules of Order.
Right.
So
I assume that the way, go ahead, Barb.
Oh, thanks, Tom. I was wondering who the secretary is.
secretary is supposed to be the zoning director or their appointee. So staff, basically.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
I guess when I read through these, it basically looked pretty much like we perform our meetings, other than, like you said, the clarification of if the vice or the chair and the vice chair aren't there, who would assume the duties of that position. And it seems fine that it's the senior position if there's a quorum. But other than that, I don't know, unless Chris saw something different. It seems pretty much just like we run our meetings anyhow. I mean,
I have to agree with you, Tom. I don't really see anything out of the ordinary.
Cool.
This is
Well,
Barb. I was wondering about the electronic meetings. Should we include some language in there about electronic meetings?
absolutely.
Do you have any
We'd have to make a
specific thoughts,
yeah.
Barb?
I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
Do you have specific thoughts on that?
I really don't. I just kind of want it mentioned in there, I guess, that is available for us.
Yeah,
I think one
Go ahead, Tom.
comment that I would make on that is, especially if it's a contentious meeting, that in those types of situations, number one, person speaking identify themselves, who they are clearly, and then two, in our votes, that they are by roll call, by name, so that the members listening in, or the individuals listening into the meeting, are clear on who stated what or voted for what.
That makes a lot of sense, yes.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, and we don't need to wordsmith it right now. I will work on it, and we can take a look at it at the next meeting.
Okay, you want an attorney to review this as well?
Yeah, we're gonna have Joshua review all this stuff.
Okay. Do you need a motion to table this until the next meeting, or until Josh gets a chance to look at it?
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to table both. We can do both at the same time, the zoning text amendment and the rules of procedures, until we have legal counsel review and advise.
This is Barb. I'll make that motion.
Okay,
This is
Can I get a
Tom, and
second?
I would second that motion.
okay. All in favor, say aye. By roll call. Barb,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Chris? Aye. Okay, it's tabled. They're tabled.
Thank you,
The
folks.
next item, yep, you bet. The next item on the agenda is public comment on matters not on the agenda. Do we have any, I don't think we have any public that has added themselves to us, has there?
We've not had anyone join since we've started, no.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Any commissioner comment or inquiry?
This is Tom, and I guess I would like to make a comment. Dan and Dave, they brought out a recognition certificate framed for Bruce's service to the board, and I took that over to Patty, and she was extremely appreciative. Kind of got her worked up, but I mean, she was really happy that that was done. It made her feel really good, and so I'd just like to thank Barb for suggesting that, and Dan and Dave getting it put together, and everybody being in favor of that, because it did really hit her hard, and she was appreciative of it. So,
Well, we're really glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for making that happen. Tom for the delivery, Barb for the idea, and Dave and Dan for getting it done. Good job.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on that note, are we ready to adjourn?
If I could, Chris, I would just like to make a comment. Or I guess I'd like to survey you folks and see, with the electronic meetings, and are you guys okay with us just checking in with the chair on a month-to-month basis and seeing, or how would you guys like us to, do you want to start meeting in person? We can have the room set up so we're all socially distanced. We don't have any policies here in the county, in our county buildings about personal protective equipment. But if you guys want to, we can wear masks. We can set up the room to socially distance, or we can continue to meet electronically. I think you guys have been effective meeting electronically. So whatever you're comfortable with, I would just, let us know.
Okay. Anybody at this point
This
in
is
time?
Barb.
Do you have Yeah.
Go ahead. This is Barb.
Barb.
I am totally surprised. I'm totally surprised that this telephone conference is working as well as it is. I did not think it was going to work, and it does have its problems, especially during those meetings that are contentious. So as far as I'm concerned, we can go ahead meeting this way. But I'm very open to going back to our regular meetings too. Thank you.
In person?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Barb. Tom, how about you? What are your thoughts?
I would agree with Barb's comment that the contentious meetings probably a little more difficult to handle with the telephone conference. But again, I'm either way. If we want to get back to meeting in person, I'm okay with that. If you want to continue on the phone, I'm okay with that. And if it gets into an issue where we've got a lot to discuss, or there are some contentious issues, if you want to decide at that time to go to a in-person meeting, like I said, either way, I'm fine.
I think I agree with that perspective. It's been difficult on a couple of issues because we don't have the maps in front of us, and I'm not sure if we're all communicating about the same things on those maps. So it makes it a little confusing, but I think we did well. Have we got any complaints from the public?
No. And to be honest with you folks, I thought even in the tough one, that it worked out really well. So, I've been actually really, happy with your guys' performance electronically, and, we can make sure that we do more to add more specificity to our agenda items and the material, so it's more easily identifiable, or you can call it out. We'll try to make we'll try to be more cognizant of that when we're meeting electronically.
Maybe like page numbers, so we can all refer to consistent page
Yes.
numbers or paragraphs or maps or, yeah, that might be helpful, especially if they're a little more complicated.
Okay.
Right. Sounds good. So we'll review every month and make a decision based on what we have on the agenda.
Okay, we are good with that. Thank
That's
you.
what I hear. Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for the good meeting, folks.
Absolutely. Time to
Let's
adjourn
have
the
a,
meeting.
I'll
ahead,
make a
Barb.
motion to adjourn the meeting. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is Tom, and I will second that.
Okay, thank you, Tom. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Barb?
Aye.
Okay, Tom?
Aye,
And Chris,
sorry.
aye. No, that's okay. There's a delay reaction in there. Oh, good job, everybody. Thank you very much again for a great meeting. I appreciate it.
You bet. Have a good night.
Thanks for the work you do. Take
Thanks.
care.
Good night.
You bet.
Yep.
Good night.